Ted Russ back again. Sex, religion, and politics. Oasis. Wonderwall. Sorry.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
Oasis. Don't know much about them. Couldn't even tell you roughly what year that is. 90s? Or is it more recent than that? I don't know. Sign of getting old, I guess. When there's so much music behind you that you can't say, you know, I know when I hear Rolling Stones' Satisfaction, I was 5 years old when that came out. It made a big impression on me. Take another toke, clear that throat up. Yeah, I barely had two. I had two right before I turned the camera on. Take your tokes and let's talk. We're going to talk about, you know, Trump's blowing his horn about communism. Communism's coming and coming, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, a lot of shit I say sounds like communism. It's just that most people don't know what communism is. So they always kind of go along with my idea. Well, it's like this. Let's take the example of oil. Our country had been a country for decades. We didn't have any purpose for oil, right? But somewhere up in the middle 1800s, some people might say 50s or 60s, but certainly by the 70s, we had learned to refine oil and make lamp oil so that poor people could stay up at night. The oil would be so cheap that you can actually have a lamp going, you know, 2 or 3 hours every evening and, you know, read or whatever. Look at your wife. Look at your husband. Anyway, that was the story. So once they was pouring the gasoline, because you refine it off in different stages, right? The gas probably vaporizes faster and comes off, and they're saying, well, this shit's way too explosive. Let's just throw it out on the ground out there, because nobody had invented a internal combustion engine yet. So anyway, this whole oil thing, government was nothing at the time. And John D. Rockefeller was nothing and a nobody. But just in a 10-year period, Rockefeller built up an empire, dominated the entire refining industry, and totally monopolized it. And he was richer than any guy today. And in today's dollars, he was wealthier than anybody ever. And Carnegie, I think, surpassed him later. He was a steel guy. So, but anyway, we're talking about oil. We didn't have a government, so we didn't really expect much. But here's the thing, okay? Oil is under the ground. It's hard to know exactly where it's at, but I do know this. If a guy owned a patch of ground that was only 20 feet wide by 30 feet deep, and he put a gigantic ass pump jack on there, like the kinds you find in here in California, go up to Signal Hill, man. I always took my friends up there when they come out here to see me, because it's this hill in Long Beach, and it really, really is a tall hill, and right at the top, Promontory Point they call it, that's where the water is stored up there. Makes sense, right? You got a lot of pressure up sitting up that high, because when you get up there, you could see, you know, downtown Long Beach out into the ocean, but it's a long ways off. And you can also see downtown Los Angeles and Orange County cities and things like that. It's really impressive. But actually, for a country boy, you know, from southern Indiana, where there's oil wells, and southern Illinois, where we had an oil lease, our family had oil leases for, you know, way back when they started drilling. And there's a pump jack up on that Promontory Point, and you know, I mean, I wasn't raised in Texas, you know. Texas pump jacks might make this thing look small, but I mean, this thing is, I don't know, let me guess, 30. Maybe when the head goes up, it may be 30 or 40 feet up. I mean, it's an enormous pump jack for me to see. Like back in Illinois, I mean, you're talking these little tiny things that, you know, the top of the pump jack is only, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 feet up in the air. This is double to triple, probably triple that. So anyway, let's say this guy owns a little tiny piece of ground, puts a pump jack on it, starts pumping oil. Okay, whose oil is he pumping? You know, he's the little bit of oil that was underneath his place has probably been sucked up in the first few pumps. Okay, now you're digging out of a plume that goes who knows where. So, you know, we could have had a government if we wouldn't have got into that until, let's say, the 1920s. We might have had a different outlook on it because we didn't get involved. We had a laissez-faire government, hands off. So when Rockefeller learned how to do this, and then he started, you know, he wasn't breaking the law, like driving guys out of business, you know, that just because he wanted to take over the territory. And, you know, he'd usually show them the carrot and the stick at the same time. Here's what I'll offer you for your refining business, and here's what I'll do if you don't take it. So you accept my offer, or we'll be dumping oil in here at half the price in all the hardware stores in your area. We'll run it for half the price for about 3 months till we bankrupt you. And most guys would, you know, give in. And anyway, and that's how you ended up monopolizing the industry. But anyway, back to the one pump. You're sucking off of a plume that, I mean, who knows how big those big oil reserves are. But the bottom line is, it could have been ruled that because we don't know where it comes from, and the same holds true with water, gas, natural gas, coal's a little different. You can figure out where you're at underneath the ground and who this coal belongs to. But coal rights really don't need to go with the house up above. You know, what we could have said was, okay, the land up above and going down like 6 feet, you know, you can dig down if you want to make a basement that's 12 feet, you know, whatever. The top, you know, 10 feet or 20 feet of the land is yours to do with as you see. But if there's oil underneath there, it belongs to everybody. If there's coal, it belongs to everybody. You know, if we were all raised on that, we'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's how it would run. So when I say things like that, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, Ted Rouse, he's communist. That's what he's talking about. I'm not talking about communism. I'm talking about, you know, kind of a ruling. This would be almost like a court ruling. Does that guy owe anything to the other people he's sucking their oil off of? And, you know, it's a pretty good argument of why the oil should be communal. And then when you drill it up, let's say the government was going to drill it, and we're going to turn over or basically buy the refining businesses out. Everything that Rockefeller did gets purchased by the government. Now the military runs the refining capacity, and they're given orders to, you know, drill a lot more and pump a lot more, get all the oil up above ground in the storage containers, and always maintain excess capacity, a lot of excess capacity, so that we can have consistent prices at the gas stations. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if it's not just having really low prices, but it's like if we could just count on it being that way for the whole year and next year too, you know? So if it was like, let's say it was $3 a gallon or $4 a gallon, whatever it is, it'd be kind of good to just see it sit there for a long time rather than up and down, up and down. Yeah, it used to be Trump was a low gas price guy, right? Yeah, no more. He was also a no war, let's have peace kind of guy. Yeah, not anymore. He's been taken over, guys. BlackRock is Trump's boss, okay? And they tell him what to do, and he does it. And they're using our military as a financial weapon. So how it could be. Yeah. Imagine if that oil was communal. The government owned the refining capacity. And for us guys that graduated, in my area, you imagine you're going to graduate or you just graduated. Hey, they just announced the opening of the Lawrenceville, Illinois refinery. There used to be a Marathon refinery in that town, and it was an immaculate town. It was just everybody. And the guy we bought the tree service off of, he was making a great living because all these people at the refinery wanted their trees to be immaculate. Well, gave him a job, it was a great setup. And just imagine today, if we're going to reopen that refinery and start refining 1,000 jobs, let's say. And it's part of the government's new plan, and that is to make the middle class, to rebuild the middle class. So it's these like super special wages, like, start out at $50 an hour, and if you're a really good operator and you can really run everything, you'd be up in the probably, I'd say maybe $100 some dollars an hour. If you're running a refinery like a shift supervisor and or a operator mechanic and these guys, yeah, we need to do that. If we're going to do the oil thing, then let's create this middle class like it used to be. Let's try to get them up onto the pay scale of where the pay scale should be. It's going to make these guys feel like, like crazy. I mean, you're out there scratching shit with the chickens now at $20 an hour, which is basically almost all workers. 20, maybe 30. You might every once in a while you'll find somebody that's making 30 or a nurse that makes 50. But when you start making like $80 an hour or 100, it's like you end up. I just take time off myself. I'm self-employed, so when I rack up $80 an hour for an 8-hour day, that just means I don't need to work the rest of the week. But at any rate, imagine that if all of a sudden we started getting factories rebuilt and we started paying everybody. That's called a planned economy. Some guys call it communism. If they don't want you to think about doing that, oh my God, you should never do that. Then they call it communism, but it's really co-op. When we were kids, we had a farmers co-op in Davis County. And what did they do? They bought directly off the refinery and sold directly to the people. You had to be a member. I guess my dad was a member. And we got our gas a lot cheaper, several cents a gallon cheaper. And it was enough to make it worthwhile. And it was because they're a co-op. There was no profit margin to be made. It was just, this is how we're going to run it. This is what we're going to do. And here's the price. So it worked out okay. I don't know why everybody's so afraid of co-ops and whatnot. Why? Americans, we can do anything we want to do if we set our mind to it. It's just there's so many negative people out there that will tell you, you know. Well, Trumpers and MAGA, they're the ones following Trump on this big communist scare. I'm like, why? we're not even close to communism. We're selling public utilities off to Centerpoint and Duke. Okay, that's not a move towards communism or socialism or anything. It's just selling all the shit we have, and we shouldn't be doing that. So, anyway, that's just my take on it. You know, that's how it could be. Imagine coming out of high school and looking at $50 an hour right out of the gates. Yeah. It could happen, guys. The young people, that they're 60% independent. So if you're a young person and you're hearing this, pass this video around. These older folks up there, like Trump's age and whatnot, these guys aren't doing our country any good. We need to kick their fucking asses out. Okay? Peace out. Follow me. Talk to you next time. God bless you.